Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jeremy Rosbeck, and I am the Chief Technical Evangelist here at Broadcom for our network monitoring and management solution. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by Andrew Green. He is a research analyst at GigaOm, and we're going to talk about what GigaOm's views are today for what they believe is key criteria for end-to-end network visibility across multi-cloud architectures. So why don't we dive right in? Andrew, please introduce yourself and let's hear a little bit about your career.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. My name is Andrew Green. I'm a networking and security research analyst with GigaOm. And network observability is actually an area that's very close to my heart. And the reason for that is that I've cut my teeth in a tier 1 telco, and I've done service management for connectivity and networking services, as well as radio networking optimization. So network observability was the main tool set of my day-to-day activities for both of those roles. Very, very different. They don't actually have to do much with one another, but I had to go through all the pain points of what doesn't work in both worlds. So I'm very excited to talk about this today.
Excellent. I'm so glad you have that, that enterprise network, telco network experience running those networks. I think it definitely adds to a lot more of the technical expertise that you bring to this area. I myself used to run data centers and ran the networks for them. So maybe we can have some war stories when it comes to the rest of this webinar. But let's talk first about the latest radar report for network observability that you put out earlier this year, Andrew. I want folks to understand exactly what you feel is the key criteria for this end-to-end network observability experience that we're now involved in when it comes to IT operations. So can you tell us a little bit about the report and why you felt these segments and these categories were important for evaluation?
Sure, absolutely. So network observability, the radar report, it's a technical vendor landscape assessment, which means that we look at most of the network observability players in the market today, and we look at the technical features of each of those. We describe those in a sister report, which is called the key criteria report. And we look at stuff, for example, like how well does this solution do asset discovery? Can it validate that configurations are doing their intended purpose? How well does visualization work? Do you see traffic flows, end-to-end graph maps, topology maps, and so on? There's a lot of stuff that actually goes into network observability, and we try to describe it as comprehensively as we can in the report. So besides the technical features, we also look at some evaluation metrics, which are non-functional requirements. So is the solution able to scale? Is it flexible in terms of can it monitor LAN as well as WAN as well as cloud networks? And then we have a bunch of use cases that we described. So for example, I mentioned earlier about the flexibility. Can it monitor data center networks? Can it do WAN and internet monitoring? Can it do Wi-Fi and wireless? So within the report, we try to provide definitions for how to look at those, such that an enterprise IT buyer can understand exactly how to evaluate the solution that they want to purchase based on their specific needs.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. And I am going to have a link in the attachment sections of this webinar so folks can go directly to the latest report that you put out. Obviously, Broadcom is hosting this webinar, and we are very proud to be named the leader in the radar report for network observability from GigaOm for the last 3 years running. So again, very, very proud of all the work that the network management family has done here at Broadcom, and very excited to be talking about what is a very complex challenge for our customers today when it comes to monitoring and managing the new network experience. So at Broadcom, especially with the change of network evolution over the many few years, when it comes to what the global pandemic did to hybrid work environments, changing the network delivery path and pushing it outside of the four walls of the data center into everywhere else, right? Home office, there are many more unmanaged ISP networks out there today and backhaul and backbone transit networks that are delivering today's digital experience for customers and companies today than when it was maybe many years ago when you and I were running networks and everything was kind of almost concentrated within the four walls of the data center minus some branch offices. So we look at these four error domains at Broadcom to be some of the most important that we need to apply observability to. Most network delivery experiences happen from a hybrid environment, whether home or office or coffee shop or hotel. You immediately connect to your residential ISP network and then traverse over many more backhaul and backbone ISP networks and finally get to what is that application experience. And I'm sure, Andrew, you would agree that a lot of those applications today are outside of the data center and within cloud and SaaS providers. Andrew, real quick, can you just tell me about the four error domains that we tend to look at now? And, is that the direction you believe vendors should be looking today?
Yes, absolutely. Especially in the context when you're delivering digital services to consumers, it's not like it. Most enterprise network monitoring was designed to support these types of use cases about, let's say, maybe 10 years ago or so on. And you get into the realm of unmanaged networks, and once it passes your edge router, you don't exactly know what's going to happen to performance, how it's going to hop, if there's going to be an ISP link down, if it's going to affect you. So having this visibility from end to end, from user to the application that you're accessing is critical. And you've got multiple business reasons for that. You've got SLAs, you've got business objectives in the sense that you want your end users to have the best experience possible. There are plenty of studies that say if a page loads 2 seconds longer than it should be, then you see like a 20% drop in revenue. So there's a lot of business incentives to actually know what's going to happen beyond the four walls of the network, as you described it, Jeremy. Mm-hmm. And not a lot of solutions are able to do this today. So it's definitely something you need to look into. But there are two perspectives of going about this. You can either look at real user monitoring, so exactly how real users are experiencing the service. And you can also do the same with synthetic traffic. And that's a more proactive approach in terms of with synthetic traffic, if it's not real user traffic, you can still see how it's going to behave without actually the end user being impacted.
Yeah, I'm so happy you brought that up, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the webinar around real user data traffic and synthetic traffic and understanding how the network is going to behave and how healthy is it if we can simulate what typical network transmissions look like. And if we're ready to have real users using that network segment. But yeah, if we look at the bottom of the slide, I mean, this is what is the new network delivery path. It is not like what it looked like when I was running data centers, right? And maybe even you, Andrew, where, a branch office would be on the left side. You'd have a user who would hit that core switch and then the edge router, and then it would traverse into the corporate data center and hit the application server hosted in the data center. I mean, it would be minimal hops normally, maybe 4 or 5 at the most when you have direct connect T1 from branch to corporate data centers. But that is not like how it is nowadays, because all of our workloads are out of the data center, or at least most, and in cloud providers and SaaS providers. And you got to traverse the internet to get to them now. A lot of SD-WAN vendors bundle the internet with their MPLS dedicated circuits, which is providing a lot more benefits to companies out there today, but a lot more challenges, and we'll talk about that. But Andrew, real quick, do you agree that the bottom half of this visualized network path is kind of what we're dealing with today when it comes to network operations?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. For example, when I was doing service management, one of our customers was a large supermarket chain in the UK, and we were essentially doing all the networking between all the thousands of stores that they had and the corporate office. So what we were concerned with was links between the stores and the corporate office where you had the on-premises data center and you had all the workloads going on. Another customer was the UK Ministry of Justice. Same story. You have all the courts distributed nationally. They would have to go back to the main London office. So yeah, that was the main story. That was the challenges that we had to deal with. A bunch of challenges even at that point. So now today, when you have to go out to like a server in Arizona or in Frankfurt, it's much more difficult.
Yes, definitely. I'm glad you agree. At Broadcom, we're very excited to be constantly innovating around three very important areas of when it comes to network operations and network resilience. And we do believe it starts with optimizing operations, moving into using those optimized operations to triage as quickly as possible, which is then going to help our customers accelerate network transformation. And what I mean by that is really seeing the full value of your new network investments, whether they be SD-WAN or software-defined data center, cloud-based Wi-Fi architectures that are out now. All of those require a lot more enhanced observability to make sure you're not only seeing the cost benefits, but the security benefits, the application delivery time benefits. All that matters, especially when you have a optimized network operations. And then finally, using all of that to enhance the connected experience. Really, kind of like what you just talked about, Andrew, being able to use advanced observability to understand what the connected experience for customers out there is going to be over what is that new network delivery path that we just looked like. And that means testing it prior to putting it into production. Simulated traffic analysis, synthetics, active monitoring, with live data to understand what the health of every single hop of that network delivery path looks like, even if you don't own the network. Andrew, can you give me your analysis of how you feel Broadcom is innovating in these three areas, and if you feel it's the right innovation that vendors should be looking at today for what is a new network delivery path?
Yes, and I want to capitalize on one point specifically, and that is that you're able to do this with one tool. And I think that's such a big difference because often you'd have to deal with multiple tools for multiple use cases. You have one tool that may monitor LAN, you've got another tool that monitors Wi-Fi. CMDB might usually be a spreadsheet, which is like the most terrible thing you can do to a network operator. So the key here is if you can actually achieve this end-to-end visibility with one tool, and you can include the synthetic monitoring, you can include the validation capabilities, you can include the visualization capabilities. You've got all the rich data that you actually need, and you don't need to probe different tools. You don't need to create reports into PowerPoint. That's exactly the type of innovation that the network observability tool should deliver.
Excellent. So why don't we dig into these three areas, get real specific, get real techie and nerdy, and let's talk about what optimizing operations looks like, how it leads into the next innovation areas, why it's important to start here and move toward this kind of maturity model. But when it comes to talking to our customers, a lot of times they'll say, I need to be able to do this. I need to be able to solve that. And we hear that our customers need to leverage a lot of data in order to get those insights to be able to triage and troubleshoot faster. For example, we tell the story at Broadcom all the time. If you're looking at logs and you're looking at performance and you're looking at flow, but maybe, you're not looking at, real-time congestion, or maybe you do performance and flow, but you don't have topology to understand the relationships and dependencies. If you have 9 out of 10 of the ingredients for a recipe you're cooking, it's not going to taste how it would taste if you had 10 out of 10. So let's talk about having that data, being able to access it quickly from the alarm that comes in regarding that network health degradation.
The key here is to have rich data, the right data in the right context. So if the tool can do something such as correlate specific events with network performance degradation, that's a rich piece of information. If you can have a topology map with with traffic heat maps, right? So you can see exactly if there is congestion on a link somewhere, and you're able to dig into that link straight from the visual tool, and you can see exactly what's happening here. Perhaps like an interface is down or anything like that. It's this type of rich information that allows you to get to the root cause quicker, and also be able not just to diagnose it, but to solve it as well.
You're looking at examples here of moving from a alarm inside of the NetOps dashboard from Broadcom immediately to every piece of data collected on that specific device that we believe is having performance degradation, whether it's voice drops, packet loss, latency, jitter, logs, etc. And that alarm, could have been pinging and hitting hundreds, if not thousands of times. But so we need to reduce that alarm noise in order to be able to focus our network operations teams on what matters as quickly as possible. What are your views on that?
Yeah, exactly. And the problem with alarms that trigger too often is that you as a analyst end up ignoring them, because if it's always there, it's not an alarm anymore. It's the new normal, as, as they used to say a few years ago about COVID.
Mhm.
So having alarms being correlated or collapsed into one event that you can actually investigate, it's going to be very rich. And it's also a matter of detecting what could be false positives from actual alarms. For example, if you see a traffic spike, it might actually be just genuine user traffic. So you don't want necessarily an alarm telling you that something's wrong when it's genuine user traffic. And the new path of investigation should lead you into, okay, how do you actually allocate more capacity to this link such that it doesn't end up acting like a bottleneck?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And, we're looking at a great example of leveraging a lot of insightful data across traditional and software-defined architectures here, multi-vendor, right? Because I don't know a data center out there today that just has one vendor's technology in it. So you're looking at multi-vendor correlation and normalization of that collected data to provide insightful, easy to understand displays of network health here. So again, and we talked about workflows, right? You're looking at an alarm, clicking the device in the alarm that seems to be having a degradation, and within one click, you know everything in context to that device that is out there on the data to be able to be collected and analyzed. And then real quick, I just want to apply a real use case. This article actually came out just a few months ago. Very excited to see one of our customers, BT Ireland, British Telecom, by the fact that they were able to have a one-stop shop for network health across new and old architectures, across multi-vendor, to be able to analyze at high scale. We're talking about telecom here. You did talk about scale. It's one of your criteria for your network observability report. So it's very important telecoms. But when you have alarm noise reduction, you're obviously going to be able to triage faster because you're not looking for that needle in a haystack. So you can see some of the great numbers here, the success they've had with the Broadcom solutions. So Andrew, we talked about how to help enterprise customers optimize operations, consolidating siloed tools, collecting insightful data, having fast, easy, focused triage efforts, pinpoint focus on the root cause. And when you can do that, obviously you're not wasting time, with hours of troubleshooting and outage, especially when it comes to new software-defined network deployments out there today. So we have customers say not only do they need to successfully deploy this SD-WAN or multiple SD-WAN technologies, software-defined data center technologies, new cloud-based Wi-Fi, but then they need to be able to see all of that health across all of those technologies, again, in one unified network operations center dashboard. So, why do you think it's so important to be able to correlate the LAN and the WAN and the Wi-Fi together for level 1 NOC operators, again, to be able to not only troubleshoot quickly, find the root cause, but help make these new network transformation initiatives successful?
Great point there. And I believe the main reason is that there are different skill sets. So if you come from a typical managed networks, enterprise networks background, you're typically used to working with hardware appliances. You might open up your command line interface to run some commands. You might be used to like the low-level logs that these devices produce. But then when you introduce new types of technologies like your SD-WANs and perhaps your SASEs and then your cloud networks, it's a completely different kettle of fish. And skills are, while they're common, they're not necessarily transferable. So there is also a learning curve to how do I actually manage this cloud network? What does a cloud network actually mean? Because it's all virtualized instances. You've got these new concepts of VPCs and VNet. You've got transit gateways. You have to deal with stuff like API gateways for services, and it's not a language that you would normally speak to if you're only used to enterprise networks. And if you look at if you have, like, for example, a background in getting your CCNA or some other qualification like this, you study the very low level workings of how a network works. But then if you start abstracting that into like your cloud networks and SD-WANs, the concepts start blurring a bit and they're not as useful in a day-to-day setting. So having a tool that can actually level the playing field and enable you to apply the skills that you already have in terms of, I need to maintain a certain level of performance, I need to deal with alarms, I need to investigate degradation issues. So a tool that can help you level this to navigate the whole environment is critical, because doing this with native capabilities, as in, let me look at what logs AWS is producing, let me look at what logs this SD-WAN tools is producing, it's very difficult. So having one tool, I can see everything in front of me, correlated, contextualized. What does this actually mean in terms of doing my job and actually reaching the service performance that I actually need?
Yeah, you're looking at some great examples here. To be able to see the overlay correlation to the underlay performance, again, that virtualized, SD-WAN tunnel or software-defined data center overlay performance as it rides across that underlay, the hardware, the white boxes that are hosting that in virtual environment. Underlay versus overlay, that correlation could go across multiple vendor technologies, and that could be multiple management consoles you're looking into and logging into to be able to try to find the root cause of that performance degradation. So, right away, green is good, red is bad. You're looking at outages here or possible outages that I, as a NOC operator, for example, would be able to focus my attention on where to start troubleshooting, right? So be able to correlate LAN and WAN and Wi-Fi and the health of it across multiple technologies is something we're very excited about when it comes to helping our customers with their network transformation initiatives. And when we talk about another real life use case, University of Michigan, we worked with them recently. And as most university campuses that are hosting a lot of Wi-Fi devices out there to keep schools in session, so to say, they still have to correlate the LAN and the WAN. Wi-Fi is not the only networking technology they use to run the university network services. So being able to look at the health of the entire university across different networking technologies is something they were very, very interested in at high scale too. We're talking 120,000 students and faculty using it daily. This is a big scale use case here for Wi-Fi, and to be able to understand even, the signal strength and noise at this floor in this school building versus that floor or the next building over, and zonal changes. This is all very important data, like we mentioned in the beginning, that it can be very insightful to understand the root cause of health. Real quick, Andrew, have you ever worked with customers that is more of a university campus type network, or do you have any stories behind that?
I used to do IT support in my university years as well. So I've done level 1 to level 3 IT support across the 4 years that I've been studying.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, Wi-Fi is a big part of that. And the thing is with Wi-Fi and also with typical radio networks, there's so much other stuff that can happen that you wouldn't actually expect in fixed networks. For example, and I've got two examples here, and they were like super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, we were having some issues with Wi-Fi bands being affected by HDMI cables. So some HDMI cables were emitting some sort of frequencies that were actually interfering with the Wi-Fi bands. And there was another very interesting story about the radio networks. So one mast specifically was seeing performance degradations for no reason in a port at specific hours in the week. It was scheduled. And what it turned out happened, a cruise ship was actually pulling in front of the mast and was blocking the signal that was supposed to be going to the rest of the port. And you could see that everybody was just not having signal anymore.
Great stories. Thank you so much, Andrew. And this is our last area, and one of the last couple slides we have. And again, I want to thank Andrew so much for joining us today and all the great insights he brings with a lot of his research when it comes to network observability. And, you know, the last area where we're innovating leads from the other ones. Optimizing operations leads to accelerating your network transformation. Folks do network transformation out there. SD-WAN, software-defined data center, you mentioned it, in order to build a more resilient, connected experience for our customers and users out there. And that's where we end up, is enhancing the connected experience. Again, our customers need full visibility into the cloud experience for their customers, whether it's site to site, you know, home Wi-Fi to cloud, or cloud inter-cloud network experiences. Being able to get full visibility into that entire network delivery path, every hop, every BGP route change, you name it. Andrew, what do you think about, you know, the fact that the network, the evolution of networking has changed so much? It's changed the network delivery path. And what does it mean to have that true end-to-end visibility across this new network delivery experience?
I think it's a great evolution in terms of actual user experience. You know, I work remotely. It's the best working experience I had, and I can only do this if the if my service is up to scratch, essentially. For example, we are having this this conversation. We are recording online, and yeah, if we didn't actually have good enough performance to be able to speak in real time with all your quality of service and so on, this wouldn't be possible. And essentially, the service providers, like for example the platform we're using to record this on now, needs to have this rich level of information between I've got somebody who's currently based in Spain and then somebody who's currently based in the US, and they are talking and recording onto a cloud software. For them to actually support this use case, they need to have this end-to-end visibility over all the unmanaged networks, different ISPs, different last miles, and so on. So it's a core enabler of today's society, and I don't think you'd be able to do it without proper network observability tools.
Yeah, can you imagine what your network delivery path looks like hop by hop from your home, right? What is hop by hop? You know, think of it as a visualized trace route all the way up to the platform we're using to record this webinar and whatever cloud, you know, services that it's hosted at, versus what my network delivery path looks like on the East Coast of the US. And what if, you know, what if my audio was breaking up or your audio was breaking up? Where would we begin to troubleshoot what device in that network delivery path was having degradation? I don't know. Maybe it's my home laptop. Maybe it's my Wi-Fi router I'm looking at on my desk. Or maybe beyond that, it's in a ISP network that I have no control over.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating feat that we're actually able to have this conversation, in real time. I can hear you well, I can hear you in real time, you can hear me well. It's absolutely impressive. And the infrastructure behind this, all of it, the physical infrastructure, the overlays, the observability, the people that actually have made all this happen, configurations, and so on. It's astounding.
And we're very proud at Broadcom that to be recognized, to be able to bring this end-to-end visibility to our enterprise network customers. As you can see here, we're looking at discovered network paths, even when it comes to what is a very complex network delivery experience nowadays, being able to understand the performance of ISPs per region, using that underlay-overlay correlation, reducing alarm noise, grabbing and correlating and normalizing insightful data across multi-vendor technologies to be able to bring that level 1 NOC experience for fast root cause and focused triage, right? You can see right here that we're able to show at a quick glance what's healthy, what's not, and where to follow the breadcrumbs. FIS and the network team was dealing with a customer of theirs that was trying to gain access to their data center resources. And the customer kept complaining that the user experience was bad. This was timing out, that was timing out, etc. And it wasn't until they utilized the AppNeta portion of our network management solution to be able to instantly, once we put a monitoring point inside of that customer environment, they were instantly able to see that that hop in the network experience was a misconfigured F5 load balancer, which is creating a user experience performance degradation issue when accessing FIS resources in their data center. So again, being able to visualize the network path, identify root cause of degradation immediately at this hop, whether you own the network or not. So Andrew, before we finish, and again, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your expertise in the industry. Again, we are very proud to be named leader 3rd year in a row. We believe it has to do with the innovation we're delivering in those 3 areas of optimizing operations and accelerating network transformation and enhancing the connected experience. But I want to leave you with the final words here about your research, about what you believe customers need to know.
Well, so far we had 3 iterations of the network observability report. The first one we kicked off in 2020. We're about to launch the 4th iteration of the network observability report sometime in mid-2024. And the whole premise of the GigaOm report is that key criteria graduate to table stakes, and then emerging technologies graduate to key criteria. So it's always moving goalposts. The stuff we looked at in 2020 is more or less table stakes now. So even if you see those iterations of the reports year on year, they actually get more and more difficult to qualify as a leader because the stakes are always higher. So for example, first year of the report we're looking at, can the solution discover assets? And then the second year we're looking at, can the solution discover assets dynamically as they're being added? How is that being done? Is that with regular polling? Is that I spin up a new asset and it's automatically discovered? Are topology maps automatically updated when a new asset is discovered? Can it actually tell me, does this new discovered asset impact performance in some way? So keep in mind, as you go through all of those iterations of the reports, stakes are always higher, they're more difficult, more comprehensive.
Again, Andrew, thank you so much. I really appreciate your expertise on this topic. I know our listeners appreciate it as well. Again, I want to remind everyone to hit the link in the attachments to read the report, as well as download some more insightful assets we've provided for this webinar. I appreciate everyone's time today. And Andrew, again, I thank you so much. And I wish everyone a wonderful rest of their week. Thank you.